Okay. Chesed Aleph. Tiny Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi said name his father. Ezuhi, name of Rabbi Yossi. Ezu Me'isa. Our Mishnah said Me'isa is Chayiv and Challah. What's Me'isa? A nosin Chayiv and Tokemach. You put flour on the table, and not on the table, in a pot, and you pour hot water on it. That's Me'isa. Chalita, also Chalita is Chayiv. What's Chalita? Kemach l'to chamin. You put hot water down, and you put dough into that. So which cooks better? The dough in the hot water. That's called halacha tatah gavar. When the heat source is already down there, that cooks better than when you pour the heat source on top. Okay, that's probably true in physics as well. But this is specifically in halacha, that is a well-known fact. So, Isa Chamek, come and see. I got a problem, says the Gemara. And it says in our Mishnah that by Chalita Beishamai makes you take off challah. Lo nechlikota kol tzarka, but if it's wait. Our Mishnah said that Beishamai by Chalita says you're by Me'isa, Beishamai says you're potter, and Beisil says you're chayev. Beishamai says you're exempt by Me'isa from challah, and by Chalita, Beishamai says you're chayev, and Beisil says you're potter from challah. Now, says more, come and see, where it's fully cooked, meaning that it's Chalita, so Beishamai is chayev in challah. Lo nechlato kol tzorka beishamai potrim, where it's not fully cooked, so beishamai is exempts you. So there's the Gemara is bothered by this. If the Gemara is saying that if in a case, 1 second. Yeah, this is bagels, right. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about bagels.
Why does it have to repeat itself? If it says nechlota is higher than low nechlota, certainly.
Right. Oh, no, so it's the opposite. Okay, I got confused, man. The question is what obliterates baking more? This time it was baked beforehand. The question is what is more of a case of obliterating baking? So, if we're going to say that where you poured water on top of it, that obliterates baking and you're exempt. So certainly a case where you dunked it in water, then that should obliterate the baking and it should be exempt. Yet Beis Shammai said in a case where you dunked it in water, you're exempt. In a case where you poured water on it, you're exempt. In a case where you dunked it in water, then you're chayev. That's counterintuitive. Again, when you're dunking it in water, that should more be shelo kederach afiyah. And yet there Beis Shammai said, you are chayev and challah. So when you poured water over it, which is less of a negation of the baking thereof, Beis Shammai says in that case you're exempt from challah. That makes no sense, right? Certainly in that case you should be chayev and challah. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yasa, b'shem Rabbi Chizkiya, b'shem Rabbi Chia, b'shem Rabbi Yossi said, Shnei Talmidim shanu the osa. There are two, even though the Mishnah seems to indicate that Beis Shammai had a different approach to each one of these cases, really it's two different statements to name Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai, whatever they said, they were consistent across the board. Either they said both are pots or they said both are chayev. But two Talmidim heard two different cases which ended up being conflicting reports in the name of Beis Shammai, what Beis Shammai said. The Rabbi Yami b'shem Rabbi Yechon said, "Al dover hazeh alachti it's Rabbi Yosha Rubel Kesar." Concerning this man, I went to Rabbi Yosha, the great to Caesarea. Varmali said, "Shnei Talmidim shara." So he also told me two different Talmidim learned this statement named Beis Shammai, and therefore there are two different opinions. But really, whatever opinion holds in one holds in the other. If Beis Shammai holds that you're chayev, it's both by dunked and by poured. And Beis Shammai holds potter, it's both by dunked and by poured. It's just that the two different students whose statements are according to the Mishnah heard two different cases. Okay? Says the Gemara. Yeah.
It
was baked already. It was baked and then it was cooked. Baked and cooked. Bagels are cooked and baked. These are baked and cooked. Okay?
It was fully baked before.
Right, it was baked and then you cooked it afterwards. Right. It's like a matzah ball. You know, matzah ball is baked and then crumbled and cooked.
Meaning that you have it partially baked and then you pour the water.
It doesn't seem that. It might be. It might be. Maybe you're right. I can see the point on that. What do I know? Yeah, it's good. It's partially baked and then you cook it afterwards.
Then it stops.
Then it stops it. Yeah, it changes the nature. That's probably more likely. I agree with you. Says Gemara. Where my Chachamim say look at the you know what? Not like Beis Shammai nor like Beis Hillel. Rather, this is the general principle. Elanefe betan, or something which is baked in an oven, regardless of what happens subsequently, once it's baked, it's chayev. It's liable for challah. Bilvasu potter, if it's made in a pot or in a pan, potter, it's exempt from challah. Ezu cholut barur, what is something which is clearly cooked and is exempt from challah? Wherever there is fire underneath it. Now, yesterday when fire underneath it is a reason to be mechayev, right? It's the question was, because of machlokas, but we said fire underneath it could be a reason to be mechayev. Here we're saying fire underneath it is a reason to pater. But the main, and it's different, it's direct contradiction from what we learned yesterday, but it's two different amoraim, so two different tanoim, so it's two different opinions. Here, anytime you have the fire underneath it, that means it's in a pan. And in the pan there's liquid, and that exempts you from challah. Okay? Says, even if the fire is going underneath it, became a also botzek. Even if right now you cooked it, if later on you're going to make it into a dough, so then you're chayiv and challah. Okay? So this is, first they used to somehow cook it, and then they used to bake it afterwards, that's chayiv and challah. So similarly, kemach koli, if you had something which was toasted flour, and shasol botzek, and then from this toasted flour, you made dough and you baked it, chayiv and challah. So as long as it ends up like a bagel, as long as it ends up being baked, regardless of the fact that it started being cooked, it's chayiv and challah, okay?
Bagel is chayiv.
Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, V'usha afyon, as long as you bake it afterwards, not like Mr. Pechter. Okay? Chalos Torah, but again, I want to emphasize that this is chalos chutz la'aretz. All this is chalos eretz Yisrael. The question is whether there's special kulos in chalos chutz la'aretz. Okay? That's what the reason, the rationale of Pechters is that it's Pechter Alain Ervez garnish, right? We're not talking about the company, but the logic of the logic of exempting is that there's a special thing with chalos chutz la'aretz that it's not the same thing as chalos eretz Yisrael, which we have not yet seen. Chalos Torah.
What about tortillas? Because those you cook in the pan.
Yeah, so they'd be exempt from challah.
They would be exempt.
You wouldn't make hamotzi in them either.
You wouldn't.
No. You make them in a pan, you fry them. Aren't they made from corn anyway?
We can make them.
Okay. So they will. Okay, if you fry them, they're not bread. Okay. Says Mara. Yeah. If you have challah, which was made specifically for a korban toida, or matzahs that are made for the korban of a nazir. I saw a matzah, you made it for yourself, and you intended to use it yourself. You're the nazir, you're bringing the korban toida potter. Then you're exempt from challah. It says the first of your batter, below shel ekdish, not the batter which belongs to ekdish. Then if you made them to sell in the marketplace, chayev, then they're chayev and challah. Why the chayev and challah? Because you might sell them to somebody who's not going to use them for a korban. That's more of a low b'daito adover totally. Why you just designate them to sell to somebody who's chayev a korban? Says more no. You're a marketer, you're a salesman. But that's al kuchas hadavar totally. It's contingent on who's buying it for one purpose. Maybe somebody's going to come along and buy it who's not a Nazir, who's not Mechuyev in Korban Toda. Shemiyim Tzal Kuchos Mitpul Miyad. Maybe you find a customer who will buy it, and not for the purpose of Nazir, but for the purpose of Toda, and therefore Nitpul Miyad, therefore still in your hands, already in your hands, so it's going to be Tevel, meaning that they need Challah taken off of them. Okay, Aloche. Nachtum Shas Asor. A baker's making a sourdough, which of course is like a starter for fermenting other doughs. L'chalik, to divide up among many different customers. Chai b'chala, since he's making it the proper size, it's chai b'chala. However, women who gave a baker a dough to make for them sourdough, if when they gave it to the baker, none of them had the shiur, which requires challah, so their grain, their dough continues to be exempt from challah. Isas haklovim, dog's flour, meaning a cake which a shepherd would make to feed to a dog. So bisman sharoim ochli meimeno. If the shepherds eat from this dough, so chayev it's liable for challah. Umarvin born, you can make an eruv with it. Umishtatvin born, you can make a shituf with it. In other words, eruv tchumin or eruv chatzeros or shituf mevos, which is both the latter to which allow you to carry. V'nas vorchnelay make a motzi on it. Zamla, you can be bench on it. Because people do eat them, so therefore it's part of the things you're allowed to make on Yontif. A person used to fulfill Schiva Matzah Pesach. However, if the shepherds do not eat it, it's not chayv challah. You can't use it to make it air. You can't use it to do the same thing for the courtyards in the alleyway. Don't make a bracha when you eat it, because it's not suitable to eat. And you may not be mezamin on it, because it's not suitable to bench on, because you didn't do the mitzvahs with it. You're not allowed to make it on yotif, because people don't normally eat it. A person can't fulfill his chiv with it on Pesach. However, even though you can't do all these things with it, it's still considered to be food, albeit only food b'shas adchak. So therefore, you can't. It does receive the tumah which all food receives. Okay. On we go.
Tumah for everyone, not for the coin.
What?
In general, not just for the coin.
In general, yeah, general tumah. General tumah it has.
Any reason why the Mishnah had to go through all the negatives, even though
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason, but I don't know what it is. Okay, it says what should be hamimareach kerush or chavero. Somebody who smooths over his friend's pile of grain. Shlomi died without the friend's consent. Rabbi Yochanan Rishim and Lakish Machlokas. Rabbi Yochanan Rishim and Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan Marnit Pal. Tough. Now you're not allowed to snack anymore because your friend did the miruach, smooth out your pile. It's not tevel, because it's not your fault. You didn't intend to do it. Mesivs have a kasha. Now this should be Rabbi Shimon Lakish asking Rabbi Yochanan, not as written here. Rabbi Yochanan asking Rabbi Shimon Lakish. So he answered the kasha from our Mishnah. But that we learn, if a bunch of ladies gave dough to a baker to make for them sourdough, it may be shiur. If none of them have the shiur, it remains exempt from challah. Maybe the baker joined them all together and making the large sourdough batch. So if somebody else can be memareach your kri and make you chayev, so to here. Here the baker was memareach the kri, he smoothed it over, not literally but figuratively, by making the facilities available for you to.
Except the women knew that there was a possibility that everything would be joined together in the case of a memareach.
No, it's actually make it worse. That should make it worse. So it certainly should be chayiv l'challah. So we don't say that. So Amar Lei, so he said shanya. There it's different. Shkena osa isa mnas l'chalka. You know why? Because even if you make a large dough, if the large dough is made with the intent of splitting up the smaller loaves, but to min challah, then the dough is exempt from challah. So to here, since the baker intends to divide it up back to the women who gave it to him, so the fact that it's destroyed temporarily does not mechayiv, does not generate the chiyuv of challah. Amar Lei, so he said to him, what thing do we learn? Nachtum shasa salachale chayav b'challah. If the baker made the dough in order to divide up, so it's also chayav b'challah. According to you, should not be chayav b'challah because although he made a large batch, he made the batch in order to sell. So therefore, it should continue to be exempt. Each small batch should continue to be exempt. So Amalesa said, "Lo tisiveni nachto." Don't ask me a kasha from the baker. Nachtom lo b'daito davar toli. There, the baker doesn't necessarily want to split it up into little packets. On the contrary, shema yimtzol kuchos. Maybe you'll find customers. So he saw that okay, not literally. It means he's going to go back and make it a big dough. So in other words, who says that he's going to distribute up evenly and in small parcels, maybe distribute in large parcels. That's why in this case he is chayiv to take off the challah. Okay, it's considered to be one large entity which is already mechayiv challah. Elu chayot. These are. I skipped. Amalei, they said, wait a minute. What's Nina? Raski Kashri Rabbi Yochanan again. They will learn Chorin Amolim. You have anthols. Shalot of Tzara Rema, which spent the night, the ants in the hole spent the night, next to a pile of grain. Chayev, so whatever you find the anthol is chayev in Trumas Maisis, because you assume it's from the chayev pile, right? And now, that's not difficult. This is what's difficult. Made the same mistake when pairing. Sorry. They said, I didn't stress that. In other words, I assume that whatever's in the anthol came from this pot, which is already chayev. When the miruach was already done. The ants don't make the miruach. The miruach was already done before the ants came and grabbed away from there, right? That's okay. That makes sense. This is the problem. Okay, so the question is like this. It sounds clear like it's only next to an arema, which is already chayev. But next to arema patura, next to a part which is not yet miruach did not taking place, and the ant took from there to his hole, so whatever's in the ant hole is exempt from trumas and maasros. How could this be that they're paturim according to Rabbi Yochanan? According to Rabbi Yochanan, we said that somebody else could do miruach for you. So here, let the ants do the miruach. Right? When they took it into their lair, and they smoothed it over, let that be miruach. So I'm Rabbi, smoothing a pile.
Smoothing a pile implies an action to the intent.
Yeah. So he brings down, Yerushalmi brings down that when the ants bring into their lair, they bring only clean grain. Just tantamount to miruach, making it smooth, taking out the imperfections. Ants are very discriminating.
I guess when I hear the word smoothing out, there's some action to the time.
Right. So do I. But it's not just that. It means making everything look nice and aesthetic. And the ants do that. That's what it says. I'm not making that up. Honest. That's what I state.
Maybe they make their own pile, which is nice and aesthetic and smooth.
Right. That means, so even if it came from...
The old pile.
No, he understood that. He understood it, right?
No, I didn't understand
No, I understand that.
The new pile, but the ants in the ant hole.
Yeah.
That's considered to be a manure?
Yes.
I knew that was my question.
What does he have to do with it? The ants are making it, not God. Yeah.
So you're basically saying that it could be a manure.
That's Reish Lakish's Kasher Rabbi Yochanan.
on something separate from the whole pile.
Right.
So that every
Yeah.
little pile can have
Yeah.
its own mirror.
Yeah.
You've seen how nice an ant hole looks like? How it's, cratered and nice and round running outside? Our parents won't let me have that ant.
Ant farm.
Yeah, we had this.
That's what they're doing. Okay?
It just seems straight. I mean,
So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yaina, Amar should be Amar Lon. Amar Lon, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Osh, Rabbi Yochanan, Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Yeyush. Hypothetically, you're right. The truth is it should be considered to be Miruach when the ants do it. But the truth is it's exempt anyway because of Yeyush. The owner gives up hope of getting that grain back. So what's the status of that grain now? It's tantamount to, if the owner gave up hope, it's tantamount to Hefker, and Hefker is exempt from Trumas and Meisers. Okay? Says the Gemara, another answer. Shmuel bar Ava Amar, it's sorry about these are not such great ants. They should be Shagararu, Shiboli. They drag that's still in there in the chaff. So the ants didn't do a proper miruach. Since the ants didn't do a proper miruach, so therefore it's still exempt from challah. They're street ants. They are ants ben drusoi. They chopped the rind and ate it, even though it wasn't properly processed. Okay. Says Mar Mesiv, this should be here again on typo. Mesiv Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish to be. Rabbi Yochanan asked Reish Lakish. But did we learn Ekdesha Shalom Nigmar? If you consecrated your grain before you properly finish it, before you did miruach on it, Ugemar and Gizbar, and then the Gizbar, the treasure of Hekdesh, did the miruach, he finished it off. And then you redeemed the Pturim. So you're exempt from doing Trumas Umaisis and Challah the whole bit. Ask the Gemara, ask Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, Harei Gizbar ke'acheru. The Gizbar is like somebody else. Vata Marta Masha Osa Osui. Yeah, you're saying that his miruach is what determines the status of the grain for all time. Why? And therefore, since when he was mimarech, it was exempt because it was in the hands of Hekdesh, so it remains exempt even after you redeem it. Why should that be? According to Reish Lakish, that's difficult because clean Reish Lakish, miruach haydacher lav shma miruach. Somebody else's miruach is not a valid miruach, so therefore, once it gets out of Hekdesh, whatever miruach is done then, that should be the defining moment. Not what happened when it was in the hands of Hekdesh. So says the Gemara. So he said, you know what? The potter commanded our Gizbar Bailim. This I'm going. Reish Lakish says I hold like the opinion that holds that the Gizbar, when he has it, he is an owner. Since he is an owner, he can determine the nature of the chiyuv based on his doing miruach, or the lack of the chiyuv based on his doing miruach at the time that the grain is in his possession. With Lok Rabbi Yossi, now Rabbi Yossi Amar, who Gizbar Uacher, Gizbar, the person in charge of Hekdesh, is not as an owner at the time that he has it. Rabbi Chanani Chavron Drabanan. Rabbi Chanani is a friend of the rabbis. The boy asked the question. Even if one of them has the proper shiur, meaning he's asking on the case of the women, where the women all give their sourdough their dough to the baker to make the sourdough. So he asked, even if one of them had the shiur of challah. Yes, since he wants to make, they want to make it the sourdough, so it's not fully complete yet. The part should be parted from challah because it's not fully complete. So says the Gemara. I think the Gemara doesn't answer it. No, it's just a riot to the question. The Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Yaina and Rabbi Zira both said B'Shem B'Lezer, Af and Masha B'Logi Lo Nitbal. We have a case like this, case where you have a wine press, and you drew up some wine from the press in a cup. So we say that the cup does not mechayiv you take which is you could still snack from it. Why is that? The cup or the ladle. Because eventually you're going to put it back. Whatever's left over, you're going to pour back into your wine press. That's why it makes a difference. If it's cold, if it's hot, there's a whole difference you learned from Masechta Shabbos and Bavli. But Peter has it made. What do we see from here? We see here the Yesod that we can exempt from Challah in a case where it's not Gemar Melacha. So here too, when they give the dough to the baker to make it sour, it's not Gemar Melacha. Like Gemar Melacha is later on when you bake it, so it should be exempt from Challah at this stage. More doesn't answer the question. Okay? Ezuisas clothing. What is dog? For dog dough. Rabbi Shimon Melokish Ramar Ko Shiur Mursa, anything which has a lot of bran mixed into it. Masnisa Amar Rabbi says Bizmat Sharoin Ochli Miman when it's the type of stuff shepherds eat. Sometimes, however, even the shepherds don't eat it. So what is the case where the shepherds won't eat it? Says Rish Lakish, it must be a case where there's too much bran in it. Okay? So that's my raya that the stuff which shepherds don't eat is contingent on bran. Yes, bran, no, because that's which shepherds sometimes will eat. It is an Isa, but now won't eat, must because of something situational, must because it's too salty. Okay? Says the Gemara, I know, too salty, whatever the case may be, whatever's wrong with the shepherd's cake. Rabbi Yochanan says, oh no, I know what it is. It's not salty. It's the bran, the chaff, the bran. Okay, Masisa, Omar, what? Two of that's okay. Right. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, kosher avid. Anytime you made it thick like a loaf, so it's chayiv and challah. The Tanya came also in the Brayso. So a song ke'avin, if you made him thick like a loaf, chayiv is it's chayiv and challah. A song limud, if you made it long and narrow like a beam, to it's exempt from challah. Rabbi Bar b'shem Shmuel, Rabbi Yam b'shem Rabbi Chia said, b'shem Rabbi Chia, Ruba and Rabbi Chia the Great said, I feel also kluskin. If you made it into proper rolls, gewaltig breakfast rolls. But there's shepherd, there's Isas Klavim, it's dog stuff. It's exempt from Trumas and it's exempt Trumas and Mises and Challah. V'atzninon, Asagmar, then we learn in Main Roy Mochli, my man. So the shepherds don't eat it, and they're going to eat these great rolls, right? No, says Mar. We're talking about cases we made rolls because he assumed the shepherds were not going to eat them and they use them as food pellets for the animal, whatever the case may be. Okay? The Nas is B'yontif. Our dough can be made on Yontif. Masnisa Lok Rabbi Shimon, the Rabbi Shimon and Elazar. Our mission is like Rabbi Shimon and Elazar. The time we learned, Ein Osim Mi Yontif from Motzai Yontif. What is not allowed to make stuff on Yontif from Motzai Yontif. Ask the Gemara, ask the Mishnah, or the Bryce, whatever it is, the Gemara. We learn, a woman can make an entire pot full of meat. Even though right now she only wants to eat one piece. A woman can eat up an entire urn of hot water. Even though she's only drinking one cup from it. So if that's the case, so I know if it's a tzarka. But it's a statement. It's not a question. Scratch that. Rabbano, to bake, she can only bake as much as she needs. Why? Because it doesn't enhance the baking process to have more. To have more meat makes the cooking of the meat better. To have more bread doesn't make the baking of the bread better, so therefore it's not allowed to what we call in Hebrew marbu shurim. She cannot answer that what she uses. It's too much of, so to speak, aram and ikeres, an outright treacherous deed.
Yeah, but what about the time that maybe people will come on Yantif and she does the unexpected things?
You're right. It's interesting, Taina. The Gemara doesn't hear it, doesn't address it. I don't know if it doesn't base it, but it doesn't address it here. Now, here it should be Rabbi Shimon Ben Elazar, Mamali Isha, Ben Shimon Elazar comes and says a woman can fill her pot
Why wouldn't he be afraid of me?
Pas with bread. Because bread is good when the oven is complete, is whole, is full. I don't know exactly what it means, but so you can even put this.
Yeah, it means that the bread of one loaf gives a nice flavor to it.
Right. Oh, so that's why we can even make my yontif as many as you need. That's right. That's what you're doing. Okay, Tani, we learned matzah gezula. If you stole matzah, also levarech olav. You're not allowed to make a bracha on it. On Rabbi Yeshua said, "Why is that al shem botzei berech?" Somebody who took as a bribe that which has to do with the berech literally means the knee. Yeah. Means somebody who steals, that's botzeah, berech, and then makes a bracha afterwards, neitz Hashem mimakz Hashem. So it's all one long run on pasuk. Botzeah, berech, neitz Hashem. Somebody somebody who steals and then makes brachas on the stuff he steals, he's a blasphemer. Okay? Rabbi said, it's only when he first gets the object or the food stuff. But if already the owner gave up hope of ever getting it back and it changed its status, you don't know you own the object anymore, you owe him money. So if that's the case, in this specific case, we should be able to take make a bracha on the object itself, right? Because the object is not repugnant, and it's after Yehush. It's after Yehush and Shem Rishus, right? It's after they already gave up hope of getting it back. Am I making myself clear? Yeah, we had him brachas. Okay? Rabbi Yossi ain't mitzvah avera. No such thing. Says if a mitzvah is any avera involved in it, there's no mitzvah, you can't make a bracha. Rabbi Bila said, not quite. If you did them properly, hey, mitzvahs we love and mitzvah not, they're not proper mitzvahs. But here you follow the law, the letter of the law. Might be that it originally got them as theft, but it was after Yesh and Shina Rishus. So that's a machlokas Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Bila. Does that take off the deficit or does not take off the deficit? Okay? Let me call time out, get a cup of coffee, and then we'll start on Lachava. Achala v'truma. Eat chala, eat truma, chevla misa, we kill you, v'chomesh, not we, God, sorry. God kills you, it's misa v'dei shamayim. V'chomesh, you did it unintentionally, pay a fifth. V'asur l'zorim, and it's forbidden for non-Kohanim to eat. Ve'nichse Kohen belongs to Kohen. V'olim echamea, if it gets mixed into something, you need 101 to cancel it. Utunim rechitzes daim, you have to wash before you eat it. V'ayiv shemesh, and you have to go to the mikveh before and wait till nightfall if you were tamei before you eat it. Ve'yin told me nator tamei. You can't take from tor on tamei. But that's be from the same thing you're taking on, and that's because Elamina Mukov. You have to take from the same general vicinity. Minadover Garmi comes taken from something which is fully ready. Homer, somebody says, what? Yeah, that's what it says, sure. It's just like Truman, that's even a Mukov, yeah. Okay, from the same batter of dough which you're baking from. Homer Kol Garni, Truma, somebody says, may all my silo be Truma, and all of my dough be Chala. Lomar klum, it's meaningless. Actually, Shar Miktas, he has to leave something over. Okay? Rabbi Ila Bar Pazi and Rabbi Chanim, B'Shem Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yitzchak say, Chala Chulenu. I might have thought, if not for a Mishnah, that Chala is really Chulin. And Ayisi Omer Mutal Legalgamen, and you could say anybody's allowed to make a dough from Chala. From Cain, that's what Mishnah tells. So Rechmeimah had to tell us, Hachala v'atruma chayav v'lo misa v'choimish. You get death or a fifth. Eser mitzvahs, a little bit of agadata here. Esther mitzvah sada moisa chelo yochal prusa. A person does 10 mitzvahs before he eats a piece of bread. Mishum lo tachrosh. He doesn't plow with an ox and donkey together. Okay, no kilayim. Baal tisra, he doesn't plant kilayim. Baal tachsom, he doesn't muzzle the ox. He does leket, shicha, upeah, all the things that go to the poor people. Truma, u'maiser rishon, u'maiser sheni, v'chala, and finally does chala.
What's interesting here, he's saying that the non-performance, the non-violation.
That's right, it's very good. I was thinking about it myself. Non-performance of a law is tantamount to fulfillment of a mitzvah. It's a well-known thing.
Well, according to this, you're doing mitzvahs all the time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I think there's a famous grow about that. Yeah.
What did you say? I didn't catch the non-performance of an avera is tantamount to doing a mitzvah.
Because that's one of the 10 mitzvahs.
You're doing a mitzvah.
Yeah.
That's what you just said. What's the non-performance of the?
Not plowing with the ox and donkey together, or not muzzling, or not etc. etc. Not planting shatnez. Okay, this is an afkamina. Rabbi Yitzchok said it should. Now here's the Rashla changed the gears. He said, "Kan asi mesa pitzui." When he wanted to come to take his bread, biyad in his hands, but it should be hava mesa liyadai. He would take his hands, who push it as 3 says boy and spread out his 10 fingers. Vama, he said, mitzvahs, like to fulfill 10 mitzvahs by in this bread. So actually, when you make hamotzi, you're supposed to put all 10 of your fingers on the bread for that connotation. Okay? Anybody do that? Yeah, it's brought down in the books. When you're ready to make hamotzi, you put your all 10 fingers on the bread to connote the 10 mitzvahs which are done in the process of processing. Truma al-kol. I skipped. Chal al-kol. When you take off chal, you should say this is chal. You should verbalize this is chal on the entire batch. Truma al-kol. You should verbalize this is truma on the entire batch. Say of truma. Truma la Hashem. It says that truma is for God. It's a Shem Yuchad. This is the special name of God. Meaning you make a bracha when you take off truma. Minayit shelo so klum at shishar miktos. I know you did nothing unless you left some over. Tam lo mereshis. It says from the beginning you take lo koreshis, not the entire beginning. You take as truma. Okay, Ajla Chamisha Dvorim, first parak of Chala under our belt, second parak.
This message should have been at the beginning.
Should have been the beginning of the Zeroim. Yeah. Peiros Chutz La'aretz. The fruit of Chutz La'aretz, Nichnasu L'Eretz Yisrael La'aretz, which came into Eretz Yisrael. Chayav B'chal gets a chiv Chal when it enters the boundaries. Yotze Mikan L'Sham. If they left the Holy Land and went to Chutz La'aretz. Rabbi Lezer Mechaber says it's still Ritz Chayav and Chal. Rabbi Akiva Poiter. Akiva says you're exempt. Afar Chutz La'aretz Shabab Isfina, the dirt from Chutz La'aretz, which came into a boat, in a boat. La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael Chayav Meiser Shishis Chayav and Meiser and in Shemitah. Rabbi saying most of it's much only if the boat is on land, not dry dock. Yeah, it's all brought down getting this whole vision. Not dry dock, but it's actually sitting on the ground. If you have a dough which was kneaded with fruit juice, it's liable to challah, but on the other hand, eaten with dirty hands, meaning you don't have to wash for it because it's like cake, it's not like bread.
This is just quite to the contrary. This is illusion by my parents is chayv.
Yeah.
Now we're saying fruit juice. Why is that?
I assume because if you're kovei sweet on it, it's chayv and challah. I mean, it's bread. Yeah, but that's, I mean, they're without a shiur. But you're right, this seems to be against what you just told us before about bakeries. Who doesn't? Oh, he doesn't follow. Some of his brothers. Okay. Some of his parents, although probably not all of his parents. You're right. This sounds like it is chayv and challah. Alright, maybe the Gemara is going to say something. I didn't finish the whole Gemara on this. I don't know. It's a good point. Yeah, the Gemara goes on for a long time about that. I didn't get there. Aisha Shevis, this is also Bavli. A woman can sit because take off her challah with the bracha room when she's naked. Because we say a woman can crumble herself up physically into a ball, so none of her erva shows. I have a low ish, but not a man, because his erva protrudes. Okay? Peres chutzah tzchulis says some more.
So basically the mission is saying that there could be a problem, theoretically, of being mafresh kala or truma when you're not dressed appropriately.
Because they're not can't make the bracha.
Just that we're saying that she's allowed to hear.
Because she can make the bracha. Because she can scrunch herself up. We had this in the Bavli, though. Yeah. Gemara brachos. Gemara spoke about the buttocks, whether the buttocks are ever or not.
She squats herself.
Yeah. No, our collection. Yes. He doesn't recall racy Gemaras. So holy man. Okay. Says more further. Peres chutzlaretz. Ksiv it says, El haaretz asher ani mevi'eschem shama. The land to which I am bringing you. Shama atem chayavim. There you are chayav and challah. Ein atem chayav and chutzlaretz. You're not chayav and challah and chutzlaretz. Tani we learn. Zudiv Meir. Meir is the one who holds that fruit which enters Eretz Yisrael is chayav and challah. In other words, if you bring an apple, apple has to be bread. You bring bread into Eretz Yisrael from Chutz La'aretz, so you're chayav and challah, according to Rabbi Meir. Aval Divi Rabbi Yehuda says, Perlos Chutz La'aretz shenichnasu la'aretz isn't. He says you're chayav. My time with Rabbi Lezer, what's logic? Rabbi Lezer, lechem oretz. Bread from the land, lo lechem Chutz La'aretz, not bread from Chutz La'aretz. My time, Rabbi Kiva, what's logic? Rabbi Kiva. The land to which I am bringing you there. There's a lot of excess verbiage in this pasuk. What it means is shamatem chayavim. There you're chayav ben bepeirutz ben bepeirutz, whether the fruit is originally from the land of Israel or from chutzlaretz. My kaim Rabbi Lezer, time of the Rabbi Akiva. What does Rabbi Lezer do with the pasuk Rabbi Akiva? Elor tzashanim evi'eschem shama, to land which I am bringing you to there, meaning anything there is chayav. Sakut the kasha. We're not going to answer that. We're not going to answer it tonight. Chavrai b'shem Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Bar b'shem Rabbi Lezer gave an answer, but we will not see it. It comes later on. In the meantime, let's cut. Rabbi Hila b'shem Lakish said, "Kach m'shem Rabbi Akiva Rabbi Lezer." How did Rabbi Akiva defeat Rabbi Lezer? Rabbi Akiva said that chayiv even on grain which came from Chutz La'aretz Eretz Yisrael. How do you feel? Rabbi Eliezer said it's only land which grain which grows in Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara, what he say? He told him, "Ain't I moideli? Don't you concede to me? When the Jews entered the Holy Land after the time in the desert, umatzu, and they found kimachin, flowers. The next one instead of flowers should be betsekos, and those shem chayavim b'chalot, that they were chayav and challah immediately. V'lav gidulei pturu. Oh, didn't they grow under the watch of the Canaanites? When they grew under the watch of the Canaanites, that should be exempt. And nonetheless, you could see to me that those are chayav. So to here, if you have something which grew in a place which is potter, and then becomes chayav, now it grows a chutzort, and then enters Eretz Yisrael, becomes chayav. And when Rabbi Akiva said this to Rabbi Eliezer, you know what happened? Rabbi Eliezer was silent. V'mekabo minei, he accepted the svara from him. I'm Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said to me, honey, I'm astounded. Rabbi Akiva Mosivus Rabbi Eliezer. How could Rabbi Akiva ask such a kasha, Rabbi Eliezer? V'mekabo minei, and Rabbi Eliezer accepted the kasha. It's a simple the distinction. What's so funny?
I think the question is ridiculous. The reason why the question is...
So did the Gemara.
No, the question is... I'm not sure the Gemara is going there. He makes an assumption which he has no basis. He found dough among the Canaanim, and the other person accepts. Oh, yes, he definitely found...
Oh, you don't like the premise.
The premise is...
Oh, the Gemara has a much more lumdish refutation.
I would just say Kedushas Eretz Yisrael is better than the fact that the Canaan...
Closer. You're getting warmer. But this is a fundamental principle we're about to learn. The Gemara, the Bavli does bring down this principle we'll get into. You'll remember once you see it. Says the Gemara, it's different. Tamanat shelo nichnaso lo lemafrei Yoshu. When they entered Eretz Yisrael, they retroactively conquered it. What do you mean retroactively? Dam Rabbi Huna b'Shem Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachman, top of Yerushalmi base now. Rabbi Huda's name is Shmuel Nachman. L'zaracho etein ein ksiv kan. State nicht. It doesn't say by the others that are going to give it, going to give it to your children. El l'zaracho nasati. I already gave it to your children. Kfar nasati. What does the Bible call this?
I don't know.
Eretz Yisrael muchzekas hilonu me'avoseinu. Bavli and Gittin Daf Mem Zayin. Very famous Gemara. That really Eretz Yisrael belongs to us from the Avos. From here we learn a famous yeshiva Shir Yisoid. Mikanu Lahabo L'Mafreya. That the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael was activated from the time they entered Eretz Yisrael, but it was activated retroactively from the time that the Avos were there. The Avos already established the central kinyan. And then that was dormant until they actually entered Eretz Yisrael at the time of Yoshua. So that's what we say. Stuff which grew in Eretz Yisrael, even under the Canaanites' watch, is already chayav. This is similar to what you're saying, but somewhat better. It's already chayav, just it was in potential, not in practice. When they entered Eretz Yisrael, it's made a chayav. But fruit which comes from Chutz La'aretz Eretz Yisrael, that never had any relevancy to chayav challah. I meant grain. Okay.
In other words, like we say, we never lost it. But it is
never lost it. Right. Yeah, never lost it.
Never lost
That's right. Now, Ma'amekayim Time Rabbi Akiva. This is a cool Gemara. Ma'amekayim Rabbi Akiva time Rabbi Eliezer. What does Rabbi Akiva do with the pasuk Rabbi Eliezer? Lechem Aretz. It says bread of the land. So says Rabbi Akiva. It's a cool thing. This finish Nichlas Aretz. This is Mamish Nogei Aloch L'Ma'isa. You're flying on El Al or a tower. By the way, there's a picture today in the paper of the plane they chartered to take the troops to Kuwait from North Carolina. Tower Air. Tower Air.
With an Israeli pilot?
I don't know. I found that amazing that the Arabs actually let that in. But Tower Air. Okay. So we are flying to Eretz Yisrael over on tower, and they start breaking bread on the plane. So whether it's Chaim Challah or not is contingent on where the bread was baked over the sea, or overhead. How so? Says Gemara. Rabbi Akiva says that any grain which enters Eretz Yisrael is Chaim and Challah. But what more? It has to be if the baking takes place in Eretz Yisrael. And that's what we're going to say. If the crust forms from the string and in chayeves. Now the string is of course the Eretz Yisrael extends like this. The land of Israel extends like this. So we draw, here's actually the northern boundary, and here's the southern boundary. So we draw a line, which draw in the Mediterranean. Okay, that's called the chut, the imaginary line, which is the international waters.
3 miles.
Right, the 3 mile zone. So if the ship is traveling here, right? If the bread is being baked, and the crust forms before you enter this line, so Akiva says you're potter. If the crust forms after you enter this line, so Akiva holds your chayav. Okay? This is Vadi El Arish. That's where it is. Okay? It says more. So again, in Karam Panem Min Achut Lifnim, if it forms a crust once you get inside the line, Chayav is its Chayim Challah. Min Achut Lachutz, if it forms a crust before it enters the line, Petur, it's exempt. Al Daita Rabbi Akiva, Kor Rabbi Akiva, Hisvinasa, the same is true about both. He says goy, or the dough of a goy. Hiach Nasasan, when you bring him into Eretz Yisrael, Shakol Holich Achar Krimatan, where everything goes after when it takes form in the oven, right? Akiva said, Chachamim agreed, Rabbi Akiva, Bachnasa Salaret, in the case of it coming into Eretz Yisrael, Shakol Holich Achar Krimatan, that everything goes after when it forms the crust. Now, how do they know that? How do they agree that? Rabbi Akiva makes Rabbi Lezer Makam Minei. So Akiva has to catch Rabbi Lezer accepted from him. So it must be that it must be that he agrees that once it gets baked, after it enters Eretz Yisrael, after it enters the line, so it's Chayiv Nechala. Okay, right. What? Oh. Rabbi Yonah boy could Rabbi Yonah answer for Lev Yerushalmi has a shtickle more complicated. Well, I paused before Lev Yerushalmi is a little bit more complicated. I'm not sure if it's worth getting into.
We're on 31.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he actually makes a point. He makes a point. Chachamim somehow, he wants to say Chachamim actually argue in Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Lezer, but there is no real Chachamim in our Mishnah. So he kind of tacks on a shita. Forget it. You're right. It's not worth it. Rabbi Yonah bought Komi Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yonah asked for Rabbi Yirmiyah. B'shash nichnasu Yisrael La'aretz. When Am Yisrael entered Eretz Yisrael, umatzu kama lacha. They found moist grain growing. Maush asur mishum chodesh. Become also because of chodesh. Now there was no chodesh in the midbar. Now they entered Eretz Yisrael. They entered the stuff they found there growing become chodesh. Amalei said, "Lama lo." Such a Jewish answer. Why not? So he said, "Ad kedun lacha." He said, "Ad kedun lacha afiu livesha." Okay, you answer me. So he said, okay, yeah. Who's talking to? Rabbi Yonah asked for Rabbi Yonah. So Rabbi Yonah said, why not? So Rabbi Yonah said, okay, fine. So that stuff is just still growing. What about dried grain? He said, Amalei said, afilu ivesha, afilu ktsura. Same thing. Even if it's dry, even if it's already harvested, it's also a chodesh taker. You're right. Once they had there, it's a chodesh kicked in.
Moist really means just fresh.
Fresh. But they're all growing. But even harvested. So ask me, afilu chitim bali. If that's the case, even stuff which they're the Canaanim already harvested last year should be also because of chodesh, because they still haven't marked with carbon omer. Kach the omer. If that's the case, what am I going to say? Lo yochlu Yisrael matzah b'leil Pesach. How did the Jews eat matzah that Pesach when they entered Eretz Yisrael? So he says, what is the Bavli answer, by the way? Anybody remember the Bavli answers? The Bavli answer is the Kedushin Daf Lam Meches, he brings it down. But I remembered it before I saw it. So Bavli answer that they ate the mun. They made the matzah from the mun. They still had mun with them for 30 days after the mun stopped. And they made the matzah from the mun. That's the Bavli answer. But Yerushalmi gives a different answer. Rabbi Yoda, being the nafkus tia. I forgot what this means.
Dying is supposed to be perceptive enough to know that even if you have two bona fide witnesses, but they made that he has to be perceptive enough to know that even if
Rabbi Yirmiyah said, "Mean the nafkus." Once I left Rabbi Yirmiyah's presence, tahis, I was astounded. In other words, I was upset at myself. The lo martole, I didn't say to him. Why didn't I say to him? Shan yohi shemitzvah sasei doiche l'mitzvah lo sasei. That they could have eaten matzah that year because the asay of matzah is doiche the lav of chodesh. The mitzvah asay of matzah pushes aside the lo sasei not to eat chodesh.
Except it wasn't chodesh. They came in before Pesach, so wasn't it still
that they should not pervert justice.
Yashan of the old?
No, because they didn't sacrifice last year. They haven't yet brought a korban, so everything is chodesh. Right. So first of all, I say until the second day Pesach. So first of all, I'd say dochelo sasei. How daita Rabbi Yonah do Omar mitzvah sasei dochel below sasei. Now, I'll daita Rabbi Yonah do Omar mitzvah sasei dochel below sasei. Mitzvah sasei push below sasei. Avol b'sheich subatzida. Even though the asay is not written immediately next to the lo sasei, nicho, that's good. Because I'll daita Rabbi Yosef, according to Rabbi Yosef Duamar, who said mitzvah ein mitzvah sasei dochel mitzvah lo sasei, and asay cannot push off a lav unless Ellen King Suba Betsida. What's a classic case that's written right next to it? Tzitzis and shatnas, right? They're written immediately next to each other. So tzitzis pushes off shatnas because it's an asay in the lav written in immediate juxtaposition. But the asay of matzah is not written in juxtaposition to the mitzvah lo sasei of not eating chodesh. So how can you say one and two is written together, right? So how do they eat matzah that year? So he says, it's not a kasha. Mashayu tagore goyim mochrim lehem. Where to go? What do you do nowadays? Where do you get the grain from? From goyim. So they got goyish grain.
They are not influenced.
No, so goyim that's all there is, but they bought from merchants for chutzlars. They imported the grain. So they imported the grain. What's the kasha? They imported it. That's one answer. Says the Gemara, Ukra Bishma.
That disagrees with the view of the Mishnah that says imported grain is hiding cow.
That's true. But cow is different. Because it's special there's the cost of Kisavo Shama, whatever the language is by Challah. Right. This would be different. Or else, says the Gemara, another answer, Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel, Markopia Shnembu Vatera, any mitzvah sasei, mitzvah kluya ba'aretz, which is mentioned in the Torah, everything is lachar basir shana nemru. After 40 years, it didn't kick in right away. It only kicked in after the 14 years. Sheva shekov shuva sheva shechoku. Only after the 14 years which they were conquering the land of Israel. Okay? Heser Abun Barkano. I asked for Abun Barkano. Vaksiv.
He would never do anything wrong, right? Shimon
You know
would
what?
never do anything wrong.
We'll stop here.
Every day and go out.
I did prepare this, but I'm a little bit iffy on it, so we'll stop here. Yeah. Which machlokas? No, the nobody uses Masay. Again, the Bali just says the one answer. There's no. Shekasa B'tzida. I don't know. I don't remember. I only learned Yavamas once. I don't remember. Are you good at Yavamas? Okay, so then if you don't recall, it's fine with that. Yeah.
Also, there's only Chaskin on the whole issue of
You're right, I don't recall, but as I said, my memory of is faulty, so it's only learned the once to Daf Yomi. But you're right, that's where it would be. Okay.
This tape is meant to cover the gap, which includes Challah, Daf Yud Aleph, and Daf Yud Beis, for which the tape is missing. And we're going to begin on Yud Aleph and Aleph Mamish at the top, second word. Hesi Rabbi Bun Bar Kahana. Rabbi Bun Bar Kahana brought a raya to that which to say that Bnei Yisrael were commanded on Chodesh immediately when they came into Eretz Yisrael. V'aksiv doesn't say Vayachumi Avur Eretz Mimachras HaPesach. They ate from Avur Eretz from the day after Pesach. Lo b'shisha asar does not mean that they ate on the 16th day of Nisan, which means that they had to wait for the Chodesh to be permitted. Well, on the other hand, it says that Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim on Machras HaPesach, and there it's talking about the 15th day of Nisan. Machras HaPesach not referring to the day after the first day of Pesach, but the day after the Shchitas Korban HaPesach. And so if that's the case, clearly we would say that if that was the case, including Chodesh had to be mutter, since they're eating Chodesh already from the day of the first day of Pesach, not from the second day of Pesach. Now, the way the next line is read in the Gemara by the Rashi Cirilio and by the Gra, it's really a header from the Mishnah. Yotzim Mikan L'Sham, Rabbi Lezer Mechayev, Rabbi Akiva Poiter, peros which were grain which is taken from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, Rabbi Lezer Mechayev it in Challah, and Rabbi Akiva patters it from Challah. Says the Gemara, it should be not Amar Rabbi Eliezer, but just Rabbi Eliezer Amar. That's also from the Rashi Cirilio. Rabbi Eliezer, just Rabbi Eliezer, not Rabbi Eliezer Amar. Rabbi Eliezer min Asrei, Rabbi Kim min Asrei. Each one learns their shita from the psukim which they learned the shita beginning of the Mishnah, the reverse case where it came from Chutz La'aretz Eretz Yisrael. My time to Rabbi Eliezer. What's the logic of Rabbi Eliezer? What's his pasuk? Lechem haaretz mikom makom hu. No matter where it is, the lechem haaretz is chayiv in challah. My time to Rabbi Akiva. What's the source of Rabbi Akiva? El Oretz Hashanei Revi'eschem Shama. There, Shama atem chayavim bein atem chayavim b'chutz la'aretz. You're required to keep challah in Eretz Yisrael and not in chutz la'aretz. Rabban Kesar Mishem Rabbi China said b'machloikes. The Rabban Kesar's name Rabbi China said it's a machloikes. Meaning that there's machlekes if everything which they were kovesh from chutz la'aretz, what Bnei Yisrael conquers from chutz la'aretz, afterwards is gone after the kibush aretz, also became chayiv and challah, and the nafkamina will be for the boat, as we shall explain subsequently. Says the Gemara about machlekes. It's machlekes, and the name Rechia says it's machlekes. Kama asher tidroch kaf lavraglechem bo lachem yet. That's every place where your foot will step, that shall be to you. Ein b'chal ela masha beprat uchrabi Huda, meaning that the beginning of the pasuk kama is a cloud. And then later on the pasuk says me'amid bar v'alvanona etc. That's a prat, and ein b'chal ela masha prat. Specifically, places which they conquer within the borders of Eretz Yisrael have a din of Eretz Yisrael, but that which they conquer from Chutz La'aretz does not have a din of Eretz Yisrael. That is Rabbi Yehuda. Mesivan Rabbi Yehuda. So they asked Rabbi Yehuda in B'sfari Eretz Yisrael. if we're talking, if the pasuk is only telling us that the borders of Eretz Yisrael are included, so just right. In other words, you don't need to say because the whole pasuk already specifies. The pasuk already specifies what the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael are. So therefore it's not a matter for Sfarei Eretz Yisrael, for the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael. That too is chayiv in Chodesh when they acquire it. Mi'atov, if that's the case, that which we know that they went and conquered in Aram Taraim and Aram Tzova in the days of David should be considered chayiv in Challah. Yet we know it's not. So Shana Hisha David Minich says Safari Eretz Yisrael Mechabish Safari Chutzlaretz. It's different because David was leaving forsaking certain Gvulos in Eretz Yisrael which he didn't conquer, and he was taking up the Gvulos and Chutzlaretz. And there's one interpretation of Kibush Yachid which we have in the Bavli and Gittin. There it's also an interpretation that he was only him without as far as the Kibush Rabim. But there's here, and it doesn't use the Lashon of Kibush Yachid. It just tells us this Svara that it was without being Kovish Sfarei Eretz Yisrael. Now, so this has a ramification, says Lev Yerushalmi here, for the Machlekes Rabbanan in our Mishnah about Afer Chutzlaretz that came in a boat to Eretz Yisrael. Rabbanan hold that it becomes kadosh as if it was conquered, as if it was a conquered portion of Eretz Yisrael. That's why the Sfina is chayav. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that when we conquer the boundaries of Chutz La'aretz, it doesn't have the din of Eretz Yisrael. So then, therefore, it's only when the Sfinas go sheshes, it's only when it's touching ground, that then the vegetation inside is deriving nourishment from the land of Eretz Yisrael, that it's chayav in Maitros. That's the Rash Cirilio, the Rebellia Fulda, Pnei Moshe, thus all relate this discussion to the issue of whether a Sfina has to be Gosheshes or not. Again, if we hold that Safari Chutz La'aretz are also chayav as long as they were conquered. So the boat, as long as it enters into the what's it called, the national waters, there must be a better term for it, than of Eretz Yisrael, it's already considered to be part of Eretz Yisrael if they conquered it. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, said it has to be part of Eretz Yisrael proper, and conquest doesn't make a difference, so therefore it has to be Gosheshes, and so that it's actually Yoinek from Eretz Yisrael. Havaboy Meimar. It says in Mavaita, they wanted to say, Mad Amar Tamon Chayav. In the Mishnah, in other words, in the Mishnah, they're only mentioned Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanon. I'm sorry, in the Mishnah where they mention in Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanon, it only mentions Meiser and Shvius. And we assume that this is also in Challah. So the Mishnah says, so we assume it's in Challah as well because it's a Mesechet Challah, I imagine. So Havaboy Meimar Madam Tamon Chayav, that the Chayav in Meiser and Shvius, Afach Chayav is also Chayav in terms of Challah. Madam Taman Patur, and the Madamru says that it's Patur, Afach Patur, just like it's Patur from Shvius and Meiser, it's also Patur, meaning from Challah. Says more, not necessarily. Afilu Madamar Taman Patur, could be even according to Madamar that there by Shvius and Meiser would be Patur, Hacha Chayav. Here might be Chayav in terms of Challah. Why? Kevan Shenichnasu L'Eretz Yisrael Nischayvu. Since it says, since the moment they entered Eretz Yisrael, it becomes Chayav. So, since that is the case, unlike Shvius and Meiser, they only became Chayav in when after Kibush Challah, they became Chayav in earlier when they entered Eretz Yisrael. So it could be that the parameters of Chiyuv of Challah are more stringent than the parameters of Chiyuv of Meiser and Shvius, and they would even be, according to Rabbi Yehuda, even be if the Sfina is not Gosheshes, even though for Meiser and Shvius has to be Gosheshes, but not necessarily for Challah. Ksiv, it says, who? He is Yeravam ben Yoash, Melech Yisrael, who conquered as Gvul Yisrael Milavo Chamos Vad Yama Arava. He conquered the boundary of Israel from Lavo Chamos until the Yama Arava, Kedvar Hashem Elokei Yisrael. Like the word of God, the Lord of Israel, Shediber B'yad Avdo Yonah ben Amitai Hanavi Hashem Megas Chefer. Like the word of the Hashem spoke to Yonah, the son of Amitai. It's interesting, we usually associate him only with Sefer Yonah, but he also is in Sefer Malachim, who is from, he obviously had other nevuos besides Ninveh, who is from Gad Chefer. Anything which Yoshua conquered, Yeravam ben Yoash conquered. No, he conquered more than that which Yoshua conquered. Tana Rabbi Sidur, interesting name. Rabbi Sidur brought a Brisa Misayel Rabbi Mana, which is assists Rabbi Mana who says that he got more than Yoshua. Yomim Kalim Osu Yisrael Ba'osa Aretz. It says that Am Yisrael was very few. It says in Melachim that Am Yisrael was very little time in that land until Aram came and conquered it back for him. And if you're going to say that he only conquered that which Yoshua conquered and not beyond that, well, we know that they retained the land which Yoshua conquered till they were kicked out of Israel at the time of the first Golus. So it must be that more than Yoshua he conquered, and that additional amount was only settled by them for a short amount of time, and that actually comes from the Gra, so started by Lev Yerushalmi, of course. After Chutz La'aretz, the Shebalo Surya, if After Chutz La'aretz comes to Surya, Naseh Kesurya, it becomes like Surya. Yatsa Misham Lekan Nis Chayev. So, if it comes from Surya to Eretz Yisrael, then it comes Chayev in Kedin, not just Kedin Surya, but also becomes Chayev Midrabanan, but also etc. But also comes Chayev in the Dim Doraisa like Eretz Yisrael. Nochamo, like our Mishnah, it's only when the boat is touching ground in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yehuda follows his line of reasoning that he potters by water because water has no mamoshus. And I have written down here next to the Lev Yerushalmi the word wow. And the reason why I wrote wow is because of the connection here. But in Masechta Beitza it says a woman who borrows from her friend water and salt for her dough on Yom Tov. You can only take the dough to the place of Tchum where both of them can go, because since the water and the salt were borrowed on Yom Tov, they already were kind of shvisa by the original owner, and therefore they have her tchum plus the tchum of the new one, of course, who put it into her dough. Rabbi Yehuda, however, holds that if the one who gave the water, her water does not impede upon the other woman from going wherever her tchum lets her go, and the first woman's tchum doesn't have to be taken into account. Why? Because ma'im ein ben mamish, they're not choshev. So Rabbi Chagai holds that waters are considered vice tachois. We see from this the waters are considered kilu einam, as if they're not there, and they're like airspace. And even that's why even water in the keli doesn't acquire shvisa, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda holds that when the sfina is not kosheshes, it's potter from meiser, because since the water ain't bo mamish, it's as if it's airspace. It's airspace which is mapsik between the sfina and between the ground. Amazing svara. Okay, says the Gemara. Lo mistabra. It doesn't make sense to say that way. Da el mechavashitase. It should say the exact opposite. Lo isla sfina gosheshes kamosha sfina gosheshes. It should be that since it's like airspace, so therefore it should be like a otitznakov, perforated planter, which is on top of yusedos, on top of pegs. Well, you know it's chayiv and trumas ma'aser doraisa. So therefore, it should be as if it is actually being yoinek directly from the ground underneath. Loitzvas sfina gosheshes. Sorry. Again, el mechavashitasi. Loitzvas sfina gosheshes. Kemo shasfina gosheshes. If it wasn't gosheshes, it would be like chosheshes, and there we see that that's not the case, right? We see that Rabbi Yehuda holds when it's gosheshes chayav ma'asos d'Rabbanan, like a otit she'eino nakuv. I'm sorry. When it's not gosheshes, only chayav ma'asos d'Rabbanan, like an otit she'eino nakuv, like a non-perforated planter. So therefore, it can't be like Rabbi Chagai, who also holds in ben mamish, because then it should be chayav d'oraisa because of the uninterrupted air link between the planter and the ground. And this just continues and tells us, since the Sfina is not kosheshet, since Chiyav is only the Rabbanan, so you can take Trumas Umaisis from it on Atit She'eno Nakov, a non-perforated plant, which is also the Rabbanan, from Atit She'eno Nakuva on it conversely as well. And that goes like Kodad Tani, like that which we learned. Atit She'eno Nakov Masoisa Me'alocha. Halacha here it means only the Rabbanan, not Halacha Moshe Sinai. It's truma if it gets mixed up, it doesn't create meduma, it's just batel. And if a zor eats it, he doesn't, when he makes reparation, unlike truma deraisa, he has to eat a fifth, he doesn't have to add a fifth over here. Rahila Shem Elazar said, somebody buys a perforated plant in Surya, even though it does not buy the land underneath it, v'karka shal gabav, or the dirt over it, in other words, he doesn't buy the ground of the goy underneath, and the zroim, alternatively, if the zroim are yonik from the karka on top, which belongs to the goy. Again, it's not if you preparate planter in Syria. Nevertheless, it is chayv ma'aser shvius midei rabbanon, since essentially like it would be in Eretz Yisrael, and even though the karka of a goy is generally mafkia from ma'aser chutz la'aretz, here since you own an atzit she'eino nakov, which is as if it's connected to the ground, so therefore it's as if you own the land yourself, and it's chayav. Even if it's in the air, even if it's not on the land, even if it's way up high on pegs. And after Rabbi Yehuda Moedebo, even Rabbi Yehuda holds that a sfina has to be kosher. That's only with water interrupting between the boat and the ground. But here, where it's just airspace, then nevertheless it is considered to be connected. And the reason why he says this is a very interesting svara. Sfina, ma beino lebein sfina. Why is he moed on this? Whereas by sfina he argues, sfina oilev yoredis. A sfina goes up and down, meaning it's not considered kavua. So it's not considered kavua. It's not considered to be like the ground underneath, but it's always moving. But in the case of the atzitz nakuv, so since the atzitz nakuv is permanently embedded in that place, therefore it is not considered to be not permanently necessarily, but it's not moving up and down, it's not rocking back and forth. So therefore it's considered to be sufficiently kavua in order that you should be chayev in trumas u'maisros kedin Surya, of course. The next Gemara goes on. Back on the Mishnah, the Mishnah said that dough which is nilosha but made peros, if it's needed with made peros, it's chayav in the challah. So Rabbi Chanina Amar the Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda ish bir susahi. This is going like Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda ish bir susa. The Tzina Amar we learned over there Elazar ben Yehuda ish bir susa. Oimen b'shum Rabbi Yoshua. He says name Rabbi Yoshua that made peros work to connect an entire Esau, even though they're not makabel tuma, but they can work to connect it, and therefore pasal es kula. If a tful yom touches it, it's considered to connect all the grain, and therefore it is makabel tuma. Akiva Omer Mishmar, Akiva disagrees. Akiva says in the name of Rabbi Yoshua, lo pasal elamokom mago, and therefore since it doesn't connect the dough, it's only the place where the tful yom touches, so therefore it is not considered to be an isa vis-a-vis mi peros as well. Says Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Lakish Omer Mapli. When's the Mapli? When it first was Mukshal Kabo Tuma, and then by some contact with water, and then afterwards it was Niloisha. It was muted with the May Peros. Shemay Peros Mechabrin Lach Shiur, because the May Peros are connect the Isa, which has already been mukhshar by the water, in order that the hechsher tuma should allow part of it to come to me and then spread. But it was initially niloisha with meiperos, and then the water comes in contact with part of it, not the whole dough. So then if it comes ein meiperos, it should be mechubar. These are both the same mechavin and mechubar. It's Rashi and Gra say it's mechubar. Ein meiperos mechubar lehachshir. In that case, the meiperos does not spread hechsher. It can spread the tumah, but it can't spread the hechsher. So he holds that our mission is only going to be B'Lezer Yehuda Ish Bar Susa. Rabbi Bar Yoshem Bar said Divrei HaKoli. Everybody agrees in our Mishnah. I forgot that Rabbi Kiva Tamon and Peiperos again mechabrin l'tumah, even though he holds that Meiperos don't connect with tumah, but Meiperos mechuvarin l'chala. Even though he's not, he holds it's not mukshar, does not mention to the tumah, but nevertheless, here in terms of making a dough, it's considered to be a dough. Rabbi Chia b'Shem Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Bo said name Rabbi Chia, name Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. Bo and Rabbi Chia said name Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. En lechem mechuber el shivas mashkin or mechubar el shivas mashkin uvad. There only are 7 beverages which are mechaber, and those are the shivas mashkin yad shechatam, yain, dvash, shemen. What's the ches? Chometz, tal. Dam and Mayim. I think that's what it is. Rabbi Yossi Boy, concerning what did he say this? Rabbi Shimon Levi say this concerning l'chala or in terms of tumah. That in order to have the shiur chala, the only things that should mechaber the dough are the shivas hamashkim. Is in terms of tumah. In temel chala, if you're going to say it's in terms of chala, now the way this is supposed to be touched. If you're going to say in terms of challah, it's not oisa chibur. In terms of challah, if you're going to say that in terms of challah, only shivas hamashkim make chibur and not meiperos, is certainly koshkin l'tumah. There's certainly the other mashkin other than the shivas hamashkim don't make a chibur l'tumah. However, in Tamil Tumah, if you're going to say the other mashkim don't make a chibur in a tumah, halachala lo. In terms of challah, that may not necessarily be the case. In terms of challah, they may make a chibur, meaning in the final analysis, it is a dough. Rabbi Yonah B'Shitale, the Rabbi Yonah had to clear that, but it was simple to him that a challah that is not a chibur in terms of challah doesn't make a dough, and then koshkein l'tumah it certainly doesn't make a chibur in terms of tumah. Rabbi Yonah Kedaite, Rabbi Yonah follows his line of reasoning. Rabbi Yonah Tani Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Yonah Tani said writes the name Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and also Rabbi Shimon Levi Tani Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Levi also writes the name Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Tani Rabbi Shimon Yochai Omer, Rabbi Shimon Yochai, Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Nema Kan Chalo. I guess Rabbi Shimon Yochai and Rabbi Tarfon said, or Rabbi Shimon Yochai name Rabbi Tarfon said, it says by Chala Tarimu Truma, and it says Nemar Lahalon, it says by Parsha Miluim Chalas Lechem Shemen. Ma Chala Nemar Lahana Suy B'Shemen, just like the Chala which is stated by Miluim is one which is made with oil. Av Chala Shnemar Kan, so the Chala which is mentioned here, Asuy B'Shemen, is also Chala which is made with oil. B'Shemen Achad Lechem B'Shivas HaMashkinu, and Sheven is one of the 7 mashkim. So therefore, we learn that only that which is made with Shivas HaMashkim is considered to be a true dough vis-a-vis Chala, but not say made with other fruit beverages. If it's not a chibur in terms of challah, it's certainly not a chibur in terms of tumah. Rabbi Yosef b'Shem Rabbi Shabtai, Rabbi Chia b'Shem Rabbi Yishim ben Lakish, the challah until sedayim odam mahalach arba milim. This thing is brought down in the Yerushalmi, also in Brachos Perek Ches, and in the Balim Psachim. A person is walking down the road, and he has a dough which has to be kneaded, and within 4 meal the amount of time it'll take him to walk 4 meal, he has some of you can knead the dough b'tahara. You should wait till he gets there in order to be able to take off challah b'tahara. Also the same thing in Tzilas Yadayim. A person should walk 4 meal in order to wash in Tzilas Yadayim, if at all possible, of course. And he said the tzaddik only need to walk in front of him at 4 meal. But backwards he doesn't have to go at all. I think it's in the Bavli, it's a shiur of a meal backwards. Perhaps I'm mistaken about that, but here it says he doesn't have to walk back in the other direction at all. Those people who are static, they are watching gardens and orchards. So what's their status? Are they like before and they have to walk 4 meal in order to watch? But they don't have to walk like after, and they don't have to walk. No, it's back. Is it says like people who are walking the same direction, therefore they have to walk 4 meal in order to wash, or is it people who would have to walk in the opposite direction, and therefore they don't have to walk backwards in order to wash? So it says the Gemara, let's learn from here. A woman can sit and take off her challah when she is naked, and she can make a bracha because when she's sitting on the ground, her erva is covered. And this woman, she's sitting at home. And we say we don't make her get dressed in order to make the bracha. Here too, the Shomer Ganas Pradesim, they don't have to go and leave their place. So when you're static, we don't make you move in order to find the water. It's only when you're traveling anyway. Tani, we learned in a brayso, the water which one washes before one comes to eat reshus are optional. And those which are afterwards are a chova. Now, of course, my mishonim is really also a mitzvah, then definitely make a bracha to Yosidayim. But in comparison to my machonim, which are of course mivnei asakana and mel stomach, so they are only reshus, while the my machonim are chova. However, in the Mayim Rishonim, you can wash and stop. In other words, you wash twice. The first ones are matar the hands, and the second one are matar the water which is on the hands. And the second water is Mayim Achronim. You don't have to put on twice. Ma'u mafsik, and now Gemara explains. Ma'u mafsik means mafsik. Rabbi Yaakov Amar, noito v'shoni, wash twice. Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yitzchak boy noito v'shoni v'atamarta reshus. Yaakov Yitzchak, it says noito v'shoni. It says you have to wash another time, and this is all optional. How can you possibly say that it's optional if there are all these detailed halachas? So the Gemara says, according to Rash Saril, it should say is instead of in. Isaboy mema arba milin v'atamarta reshus. And some say they asked a different question. She said you have to go 4 meal in front of you, and you're still calling it reshus. How can it possibly be? You have to walk 4 meal on something which is optional. So of course the Gemara doesn't give an answer, and the answer is like we said before, that vis-a-vis my machronim it's reshus, but vis-a-vis themselves they certainly are a mitzvah, as is customary nowadays. On the first Mayim Rishonim, pig flesh was eaten by a Jew, and on the second waters, Mayim Machonim, Yotzi Ishmi Beiso, whom was divorced. The story is brought down in the Bavli and the Yuma and the Chulin. A certain Jewish storekeeper would sell Jews kosher meat, and to Goyim he would sell non-kosher meat. And a certain Jew came and didn't wash his hands, and the store owner thought he was a goy and gave him pig meat. And the second story is a person gave money in the hands over to his host on Erev Shabbos, and after Shabbos his host denied it. And while they were speaking, he saw that there were lentils on the man's lips. And he saw the guest, went and said to the wife of the hostess, your husband said you should give me my wallet, and this is the siman that you should know that he is the one who told me, because he ate lentils today. And the husband found out about this, and when he found out about this, he divorced his wife. I don't know why she wanted to remain married to this guy, but that's what the Gemara says. That's a bad thing. V'yeshamim, and some say that that 3 people were killed. He killed his wife. And by the way, the mustache, of course, is from that. We had a minute to wipe the mustache when he washed my machronim, and that was not done. He didn't wash my achronim, so that's why it was obvious to tell that he still had eaten lentils, because it was still on his mustache. Some say that 3 souls were killed in this story, that he killed his wife, and his son came and got upset at him, and he killed his son, and after he saw that he killed both of them, he himself went and committed suicide. Now that we said before, that a woman can sit and take off challah while she's naked means that the buttocks are not considered to be an erva. That's in terms of making a bracha, that she can make a bracha even though her buttocks are revealed. However, but for a man to look at a woman, kafilu kosher also, even much less is forbidden. Because at the time, like we learned on Mistaka about Keva Shalish, if somebody looks at the heel of a woman in order to benefit from a pleasure from it, Mistaka Beisarechim, as if he's looking at her womb. Mistaka Beisarechim, and somebody who looks at the womb, Kiyu Boila, it's as if he has relations with her. Shmuel Amar Kobi Sherva, the wife, the singing of a woman is erva. Matam it says will come be from the voice of her prostitution, that the land will be full of evil deeds. So we see that the voice of the women can bring the day's nus. Rav Huna Amar Omed Hu Adam Al Tzom Mispalel. A person could stand over dung and daven there. Uvad as long as he's not touching it, such as where his shoe is covering it, his flesh is not touching it. Yashav lo kinech also, when a person sat down to make and he did not then wipe himself, he is forbidden to read Kriya Shema. So it's talking about when a person was the Yerushalmi says talking about a case where a person wiped but didn't wipe fully, and when he sits it could be seen, when he stands it can't be seen that he still has toe left, and that person cannot read Shema. Amrei man afagav lomar Rabbi Yosi, should be changed to Rabbi Huna. Afagav lomar Rabbi Huna hadam milsa amar de kavasa. Even though Rabbi Huna didn't say the favorish this halacha of sitting and not wiping, he said something similar. You see, explicitly he said a person should not stand over the tzah and daven. He can't stand over the tzah and daven as long as his flesh is not touching the tzah itself. And the issue here, of course, is when he sits and doesn't wipe. The concept is that his flesh is no gei b'tzah, so this is the same type of idea. Halacha Beis says in Mishnah further, somebody who cannot make his dough under conditions of Tara, should make it less than the shiur, which is Roy L'chala, and then he's not going to be Matam Mayasem Betuma, he's not going to be Matam his Chala. Akiva said he should make it in Tumah and not try and pattern himself by doing less than the shiur. Because the same mitzvah you get for calling Chala Torah, you get for designating Chala Tmeah as well. This one you call Chala B'Shem, meaning with a bracha. So therefore you should get the mitzvah of Chala. If he makes it into small batches, you can't take off Chala the bracha, so you don't want to lose that milah. If you make your dough in small batches and they touch each other, there's still parts of until they bite each other, meaning until they have a significant connection with each other. Rabbi Led, the shiur is kind of like if you pull them apart from each other, so then the stem will stick on from each other. It won't stick. They won't pull apart smoothly. If you take bread out of the oven and you put it into a basket, the basket is mitzaref everything which is within it in terms of challah. Says the Gemara, that which we learned with Yasena Kabin, according to Tanakama. Ma'apachas me'arba mil Yasena b'tara. Arba mil Yasena Kabin. We try and reconcile that with the Gemara we said before about going arba mil in order to do b'tara. So how do we reconcile that? We say if it's less than 4 mil, you should do a b'tara and wait. In other words, wait to get to the leader who can eat b'tara. Arba mil, if it's more than 4 mil Yasena Kabin, you should make it in small batches. Or is it arbas mil Yasena b'tara? Is it that 4 mil, up to 4 mil, you should do it. Up to and including 4 mil, you should do a betara. And if it's only more than 4 mil, then you have to send a makabi. Now you should make a small batches. That's not from here. Like from here, wherever he was, till Kesarin, you have to go and try and do a betara. The Kesarin lava abbas milinhu, and Kesarin wasn't 4 mil away. This teaches us arba mil yasena betara, yotzim arba mil yasena kabin. It teaches us that precisely 4 mil, you still do a betara. Only it's more than 4 mil, then you can make it small batches. Rabbi Ami Hori B'Kfar Shemi Lasos Isa Gedola Betuma. He allowed you to do Isa, make even a large dough under conditions of tumah. I have a loin shamar bar kabin high there were less than 4 mil to a place where there was a person who could knead the dough was door. Came with an aramafsi kamishesham arbas mil, yes, but there was a river in between, and this was a river interrupting, so therefore it was as if it was more than 4 mil, and therefore he allowed them to do it here under conditions of tumah.